Hello and welcome to I Can't Believe It's Not the Mouse, the podcast all about animation not made by the mouse. I'm your host, Octaviano, and today, look, I know that this is very late, even by recording. I've missed Hanukkah. Why is it then that I'm going to be talking about 8 Crazy Nights? Yes, I'm talking about the Adam Sandler movie, 8 Crazy Nights. I could have waited until the next Hanukkah, but I figured, you know what, I just saw the movie. I kind of want to talk about it, so I'm going to talk about it. By the time this airs, this is definitely going to be way too late, but you know what? If the conversation is good enough, it shouldn't matter when exactly it comes out. I do think in future listenings that you'll probably listen to this more during that time period, but look, I just got to get this out now before I get anything out of it. I mean, look, maybe I'll do another Hanukkah episode next year. Like I said, I'm not against revisiting movies if I have like a special guest or anything like that. But for now, yes, this is the 8 Crazy Nights episode in a completely wrong time period. Oh well. Hey, before we get this video started, I just want to say thank you for coming on, and if you enjoyed this video, like it, comment below for whatever reason you have, whether it's a question or you just want to give a shout out or just whatever. And if you've been watching a few of my videos, why haven't you subscribed yet? I mean, I'm sure some of you already have, but if you haven't, please consider subscribing. It won't hurt. It will get you more of my content. And if you really want to see some more stuff, ring that bell. Again, thank you for coming on, and I hope you enjoyed the video. 8 Crazy Nights. It's become a bit of a holiday classic. Not so much that people actually think it's good. A lot of people do not like this movie, but then again, there are some people who do enjoy it. I mean, this movie plays regularly on TV from what I've noticed during the holiday season, and unfortunately, whether people like it or not, this is the de facto Hanukkah movie. Not saying that there are no other movies that focus on Hanukkah, but realistically, how many Hanukkah movies can you think of? I'm so sorry for my Jewish audience. And yet, at the same time, I can't say it's the worst thing I've ever seen. Like, okay, look, just to be upfront, I do not like this movie for the reasons that one would like the movie. I do enjoy watching the movie, but it's for the unintentional laughs, the animation, which is genuinely good. I'll be upfront on that, and most people have been upfront on that. The animation on this movie is really good. Like, to a point where it's like, why did they put it on this movie specifically? But yeah, this is a well-animated movie that does get some laughs out of me, but unintentionally. I don't laugh at the stuff that they wanted me to laugh at. I laugh at the stuff that I'm just questioning, like, why did it do that? So a quick just intro to the movie. So in case, for those of you who have never seen it or don't know much about it, basically the movie is Adam Sandler plays a guy named Davey, and you can tell it's Adam Sandler because it's modeled after him. He basically is an asshole. Like, there's no way around it. He's a jerk. He hates Hanukkah. He hates holidays in general. He's always drunk. He's causing mess. Like, they properly set this up in the beginning, and I do give a point for that they do properly set it up. Reason being is because he had a tragedy during the holiday. This is kind of spoilers, but they kind of tell you about it even early on, so whatever. He lost his parents at a young age during the holiday, so that's why he pretty much, hates it. And he's on his last legs with the community. They're already threatening to send him to jail for 10 years or so. Here comes this old man named Whitey, who's also played by Adam Sandler, which is either a punishment or the greatest joy for, depending on who you are. And he's like this little old man who was like the referee for his basketball team when he was a kid. He's willing to take care of him. He's like, look, I'll get him into my thing. I'll fix him. Just you wait. Of course, there is still an issue of like, hey, if he messes up on this, he goes to jail, regardless of, you standing up for him, but, whatever. And from there, it's just a bunch of shenanigans. Like, we find out that Whitey is constantly doing odd jobs around the town to, fund his life, because he lives with his sister, his fraternal twin sister, who's also small and, well, I know it's kind of insulting to say this, but weird like him. You'll understand. And he basically does all this even though people mock him. Adam Sandler, they show him trying to, you know, be like a referee, but we don't really get too much into that. But yeah, that's pretty much what he's doing with him while he's trying to be reformed. Adam Sandler also puts him in a porta potty covered in shit because, of course, they would have that. From there, it's just a matter of, oh, will he get fixed? Will he not get fixed? Of course he gets fixed. I mean, the only real emotional through line, besides, you know, seeing this Adam Sandler character get better, is just that there's like this whole thing like at the town where every year they have like a ceremony, I guess you could say, where they honor people in the town for various things, and like the highest honor is like this badge that basically says like, oh, this is a good person or whatever. And Whitey has always wanted it, but he's never gotten it, but he feels extra good about the year, so he's determined to get it. And that's the movie. It's a really quick sit. I mean, the movie's only like 70 minutes long, so realistically it's not like it's that painful to sit through. But the problem is that this is a nasty movie. It, like, not that I can't handle adult stuff in my cartoons or anything like that, but it's like, because it's so well animated, it's at odds with some of the jokes that they do in this. And even then, they're not very good jokes. Like I said, at some point, Adam Sandler pushes Whitey into a porta potty, and you see all the shit come out, and him, you know, covered in shit. And it's super well animated, so it's like that makes it even worse. That's not even funny. And then deers come in to basically help Whitey out because he gets frozen in the shit, so that's even worse. And the deers basically start looking at it, and you see them like with their mouths covered in shit. And the whole movie's kind of like that. Like, there's bits where like kids are laughing so hard that boogers come out, and because again it's well animated, it just makes it even nastier. And it's like it wasn't even that funny of a joke to begin with, so making it even nastier to look at makes it more repulsive. And that's a lot of where the movie loses the audience. And like, granted, that's not the only problem the movie has, but I would say that if that stuff was dialed back, you could easily see where people would have enjoyed this a lot more. And unfortunately, because it's so detailed, so well done, it just makes the whole experience that much worse. And unfortunately, from my understanding, that's kind of an audience problem, because apparently a lot of those gross out jokes were kept in because test audiences for this movie really enjoyed it for some reason. And I don't know, it kind of calls into just how different it is when you hear people online who really love movies talking about this stuff versus just the average person who just watches movies whenever they're relaxing or whatever. I don't know. I guess maybe there is a huge chunk of people who did like this just for what it was. I know the movie bombed when it first came out, but I mean, realistically, it has grown an audience given that it is regularly played. Granted, I saw it on YouTube with ads for free, but even looking into like, okay, where is the streaming at? One of the first things that popped up was like, oh, it's going to be showing on these channels at these times. So it's like, okay, I guess this movie, you know, is well beloved if it's, you know, popping up in all these places. And hell, the first time I saw it was on TV, just on a random showing of it. So I don't know. It is one of those things where you have to remind yourself that you and the film crowd, more specifically, aren't the only people watching movies. There are people who watch these things on a regular basis who don't care for the greatest of quality of things. They just want to have a good time, and sometimes the things we don't like is delivered. And that's not to say that, like, oh, there's the film crowd and then there's the regular crowd. I mean, there are a lot of times where we overlap, you know, whether people want to admit it or not. There's a lot of film critics who love, like, the Marvel movies. There's a lot of film critics who love, like, the Fast and Furious movies. So this stuff does overlap. It's just that it feels so weird when it doesn't. And that's where people like to emphasize more on, like, oh, the critics are always wrong or whatever. I don't know. I mean, here's my thing. I can see the points where it's bad. A lot of it I do not like. But I'd still have fun watching this movie. Like, even on its initial viewing, I didn't like a lot of it, but I did like some of the stuff I saw. And then watching it again, I'm like, I'm not hating this experience. Like, granted, I know why it's a bad movie. I know why it's not a good movie. And I don't recommend it on those fronts. But at the same time, because the animation is so nice, when it's stuff that, is decent, it's really great. There's, of course, an intentional laughter in terms of some of the stuff that is done, like some of the stuff that is well animated, that is like, okay, I know that's messed up, but at the same time, it's so funny that that's well done. Like, there's a running gag where the Whitey character gets seizures, and not to laugh at anyone who has seizures, that's not good, but it's so well animated, like the way he's moving and twitching, that I'm like, I kind of get a laugh, because I'm kind of wondering, like, why did they animate that so well? Like, it's kind of similar to like the disgusting stuff, but my reaction is in the other direction now, where I'm questioning, why is it so animated so well? But I can't help but laugh, just because I'm like, of all the things they animated that well. And it's also because, for a movie that, tries to paint this character as like this nice guy, and he really is a nice guy throughout most of it, the movie makes the same mistake over and over again, where it's like, okay, the character's already putting down this character for being nice, but the movie's also kind of putting him down too. Not just because, like, oh, he has the seizures, which, that enough is something, like the fact that he's given like this small deformed leg, because he has like a regular sized leg and a small leg, still does a sister. They give him the most annoying voice, where he's like, oh, I'm Whitey, I'm gonna help you out, Adam Sandler. Basically, something like that. Not my best Whitey impression, I'm gonna be completely honest. I've done it way better. I don't know, maybe I should try. I don't know, like, some people mention, like, it's kind of like with the Mario voice, and I'm like, I mean, look, I don't think Charles Martinet's voice would work in a narrative feature, but I don't think it's just bad like Adam Sandler's Whitey's voice. But then again, I am laughing because I'm like, again, who signed off on this? Just, I don't know. It's just a bad voice, but it is a well done bad voice that's kind of humorous just because of it. Just seeing this little guy being all like, "It's a technical foul." I don't know what else I could say on that. It is what it is. But aside from those things, they make him do stuff that's just kind of embarrassing, and it's like, dude, the character's already putting this character down. The movie doesn't need to try this hard, because there's like, at some point he mentions that he's only had sex once, and it was on phone sex, and I'm like, why do you bring that up? That doesn't make the character more likable. It just makes it more sad. And then there's a later scene in the movie where characters are talking about like the stuff that he's done for them that they mistreated him for. Like the first one is like, oh, he basically became the antenna for this family while they were watching a football game in the rain. And I'm like, okay, granted, that one he gets put down, but it's not too bad. Like, it's, just borderline, like, okay, well, he's just helping them out, whatever. But then you get another one where it's like, oh, this girl tricked him on prom night, acting as if she was interested in him. And then when he showed up to basically dance with her, the prank was revealed, and he ran home to dance with his mom. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of bad, but okay, don't take it any further. And then we actually see where he's dancing with the mom, and he even tries to cop a feel with her, and I'm like, again, why are you trying to make this character more humiliating than he already is? And that stuff is just at odds with everything. And it doesn't help that the movie, like, okay, it being short is good, but at the same time, because it tries relying on a lot of these gross out humor things, humiliating Whitey and whatnot, it never really develops a lot of story for us to care about, like, emotionally, because you have Davey, who, the Adam Sandler character, who is, of course, meant to be nicer by the end of the movie. And the shift kind of comes out of nowhere because, like, at some point, he has to stay with the Whitey character and his sister. It's just like, oh, he was already, he was still rude, but then he's slowly becoming nicer. And it's like, well, we don't really see that development. We also don't see much of him being a referee like he's supposed to be for, his crimes. So, it would have been nice if they had some of those scenes instead of the gross out stuff, instead of all this humiliating moments, just to, emphasize, like, okay, this is how he's changing. And then when he basically goes back to being when he goes back to being a jerk, it's like, again, this is just out of nowhere, because it's basically, well, okay, it's technically not out of nowhere. Whitey starts explaining Adam Sandler's backstory to his sister, and he goes too far. And to be fair on this, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of on Adam Sandler's side on this one, just because he was telling you to stop talking about it, and you could tell that he's clearly in pain just thinking about it. So maybe you shouldn't have. Like, granted, I don't think Sandler should have snapped that hard, but at the same time, it's like, well, Whitey, you're kind of being a jerk here by, talking about stuff that's making him uncomfortable. It'd be one thing if Sandler himself was the one explaining it, because then it'd be like, okay, well, that's him talking about it. But, I don't know, like, if someone were talking about my sad story to someone else, and I was telling them, hey, knock it off, I don't want to think about this right now, I'd be kind of mad about it, So I can kind of understand that. But yeah, he does that, and he goes into a mall, and the mall comes to life. And I mean, they set this up, but this is just, again, just something that doesn't work about the movie. Granted, it's well animated, and at the very least, it's not nasty to an extent, where various figures from like Foot Locker, See's Candy, and whatnot come to life to call him out on him being a jerk. And this is supposed to make him a better person, but it's like, well, how does that work? Just because they told him, like, hey, you've been an asshole, stop being an asshole, it changes him? I don't know. And yeah, I mean, like I said, for the most part, it's not that bad, but at the same time, there's some kind of disturbing stuff in there. Like, you got like a GNC bottle that comes to life, and he's basically talking about how he's essentially being a stalker, creeping on like the Victoria's Secret dress that comes to life from Victoria's Secret. Basically talking about how he's watching her sleep and whatnot, and I'm like, how did anyone, how did these brands sign off on this? And funny enough, what I found out was that those brands were just put into the story. They were never really paid to put into the movie, which makes it even funnier, because early on in the movie, which again sets this up, Whitey basically talks about how he goes to the mall to get happy, and there's a whole minute-long montage of him talking about the various things that he sees, and it's the stuff that you eventually get from the song, where he's all like, oh yeah, I like going to the Coffee Bean for coffee. Yeah, KB Toys, he's got the toys. Foot Locker, he's got my shoes. And stuff like that, and I'm like, okay. I don't know, it's such a bizarre thing that, I don't know, I know they intended it to be funny in one way. I'm laughing at a completely different way, so I can't really say that it's being effective in what it is. I don't know, it's weird because it's an unintentionally funny movie, which is not something you often find in comedies. Comedies, like, if it's a bad comedy, it is not going to make you laugh. It is going to be hard to sit through and whatnot. It's a bad comedy, but it's still funny for different fucking reasons. I don't know, it is amazing how they pull that off, and for the most part, it's why I enjoy watching it, even though it's not a good movie, and I don't recommend it if you're watching it straight face. Like, if you're watching it for a laugh, like watching it kind of to mock it, like the way you would watch a bad movie that you want to watch to laugh at, definitely watch it with a group of friends. Be prepared to add your own little jokes or just laugh at the absurdity of it all. Definitely a fun time. I can't really say that I don't recommend it on that front. It's just that if you're watching it just for like an actual, like, oh, I'm gonna be emotionally thrilled with this Hanukkah movie, it's not for that. I mean, given everything, I will say that it does kind of suck, because you can see where a good version of this could exist. You can see where like an emotional Hanukkah movie this could be if they actually try to put in an effort, because it's like, okay, so it's about a guy who had a tragedy and is trying to turn himself around, and this old man is trying to help him out, and it's like, that sounds fairly sweet. It sounds like something that could work. The whole thing with the badge and him trying to earn it, because he's always helping out people. Again, it sounds like a good idea for a story, especially for the holidays. It's just that the execution is bad because of how nasty it gets, how much it rarely cares about its characters, how much it wants to humiliate them, and how much it avoids doing anything about them. So it ruins anything that could have been good about it. But funny enough, like I said, it doesn't matter, because you'll still be laughing for different reasons than what the movie intended. So definitely makes it all the more fun. I mean, if nothing else, and I know some of you probably thought that I was already forgetting about this, Adam Sandler got designed to be super buff. Like, at one point, like, he's shirtless and he's, like, very fit, and I'm like, okay, putting aside that he's an alcoholic in this movie, so that's no. The other thing is, I'm pretty sure even at his peak, Adam Sandler did not look this buff. That definitely got a good laugh out of me, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I got. It's worth watching to laugh at, not worth watching if you want to be engaged with it in the right way, so to speak. But I still had a good time, so I can't really say that I didn't. If nothing else, thank you for watching this Hanukkah episode at a completely different time than would be right. I hope to see you again next time.
They're scratching up my floor. Here comes the seizure.
Thank you for coming on today. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel where you'll see video versions of these podcasts. And if you just want to listen to them, there's always the option of just following the podcasts on their various sites, whether it's Spotify, Podbean, or Apple Podcasts. Whatever you choose, I hope you continue enjoying these. And if you want to support me even further than that, there's always the option of Patreon. With Patreon, even just $1 will get your name on the video versions of this and on other videos that I may do outside of these podcasts. A few dollars more gets you some behind the scenes info, and as this continues to grow, you'll find that there's more perks to it. So I hope you consider supporting me through Patreon as well. In any case, again, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.